How would you structure a haptic button? You mean the order in which you have the elements? You want the visual style and how to make sure that everything works. The main issue with the buttons that is the outline is two different things. It could be a drop shadow with a spread. If we have, I wish we could rename these bitches, that's fine. Something at 0 with a spread of, I think it's a spread of 1 to get like darker. I think his is really darker. And then in order to then get the effect that you want to have for the highlight, you need a stroke that will be pure white with a gradient, basically. And then that thing, usually what we do is you make that overlay or multiply or whatever it makes sense. That way you just have a bit of a colored-ish highlight. By doing that, we are good, and then you just need to have a gradient background thingy. The thing is, if you do that, you end up with some sort of an issue with the border when you're trying to make that in code. The main reason being when you have this effect and you make it in code, instead of being inside, your stroke is going to be outside. You need to specify inset, and that's another native thing that they're doing. If you do a position absolute with a div on top of everything, you will have issues with the auto layout, and also you will have issues with the devs that will pick data and not be able to select the border. Like they will pick that, which is not the transparent div with the outline, and then they will think that what we have is just a gradient and a text, we good. That's the basic here from what I can see. And then the secondary thing is the shadow underneath. The shadow underneath is just not really good, because from here you need to make sure that drop shadow that is currently like here is above everything to wrap the content. Let's make a secondary one that is like pure red. It's gonna need to be somewhere around here to get the right amount of spread, maybe 3 instead of 4. That's gonna be it. The second thing that I would recommend is this, having the shadow itself being the color of the buttons. Now that we can have, but that's not Web3 shadow, that is old. I think they came from 7, because glass came from iOS 7, basically the glass material, and we started to take colored shadow for a very specific reason, being each of our materials that we had a tint or color, and we basically said if we have something that is a tad transparent, it casts a shadow on the floor which is the same color as the kind of element that the light is going through. If you think about my finger with the light going through, it is red, because my skin, vessels, all that shit is pinkish. This transition of light through elements gives you like a full off color, and it's the same behavior when we have elements in the past, when we had like material design in iOS 7. Light coming through elements that are colored are giving you a bit of a colored-ish shadow. That is the idea. The way that it's built on cover art for iOS, it was the same cover art that is just loaded a second time and blurred, and it's just underneath the initial cover art. It gives you that clear-ish shadow, so it's the same thing here. I could argue that it would need some sort of a duplicate for the fall off to be softer. Something like this could help, and here I do feel like this is bullshit. That transition is way too much. Not on the overlay blend. Right now, this one is 30%, 32% opacity. If you want it to be like a bit more subtle, you could go to 24, and then maybe this one could also be like brighter if you wanted to, or lighter if you just wanted a subtle thing. I do like it at 32. Blend modes have a very different impact depending on the color that is underneath. If the color itself is a bit lighter than the one that I have, it might look brighter or darker. That could change. The main reason why I'm doing the switches with blends is because if for some reason I had like a button that was a different color, right? On this one, I need to have a secondary color for that. The thing that you can see right here, that my highlight at the top, because of the red, the blend mode for red is not good enough, and it disappeared. Maybe your white version is a bit better. That's debatable. The main thing that I'm always trying to do, and you've seen me do that in the past, I'm building components for reusability and implementation in all cases. I'm always thinking if we have that button in blue for that client, we need to reuse that button because that client changed color later or has a sub-brand that is using like red instead of blue. Then how can we ensure that when the color change happens, everything is flawless and we don't need to redo a new component for the secondary brand? Whereas if you know that there will be no reusability of components, then you don't give a shit and you can go all the way in with the subtle details on everything. Depending on what you're trying to achieve, things seems to be pretty okay with my primary color, with my secondary accent color potential. If I change that to violet, all of that needs to be taken into consideration. You can see how the drop shadow inner gradient thingy is fucking up the effect. On purple, it's way darker at the bottom. On green, it's fine. On red, just doesn't exist. Of course, yes, please ask questions. It is the day of questions. Please do. I'm pissed off by these transition into light mode. The outline is bad and the transition doesn't work. Like, these are shit. They look good in dark mode, they look like shit on light mode. All of that needs to happen. I'll see you on Monday. Maybe. Bye.